I think it... Hi everyone. Oh here and Juan Bango, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new The Tallest Man on Earth album, Dark Bird is Home. The Tallest Man on Earth is the musical pseudonym of songwriter Kristian Matsson, a contemporary folk singer and guitarist hailing from Sweden, whose talents have burned so brightly that he has been on a fantastic creative streak with his past 3 records. Despite the fact that the sound of these 3 albums has been so incredibly skeletal, much of the songs on these albums are just vocals and guitar. And the simple instrumental build of these albums never really quite bothered me that much, though it did make them sound kind of one-dimensional. But Matsson is actually just a really great singer and songwriter, so just to kind of hear his bare tunes laid into just vocals and acoustic guitar was pretty nice and charming. I mean, you know, it wasn't just we were hearing simple songs, but he most definitely took advantage of this very straightforward approach in a great way by giving us some very charming, quaint, kind of rootsy and organic music with these albums. In my opinion, pretty much every Tallest Man on Earth record up until this point has been very catchy, melodic, charming. And even though there was a lack of progression in the Tallest Man on Earth catalog stylistically and instrumentally, I kind of admired Matsson's adherence to this style. I mean, it kind of became his trademark, his simple aesthetic trademark. Even his last full-length LP, which did bring some extra instrumentation into the fold, the sounds surrounding his voice and the guitars were very, very faint. However, that doesn't change the fact that the obvious direction for Matsson to go in eventually is to just incorporate full instrumentation into his record. Some electric guitars and bass and drums and maybe some string sections and some horns. It seems like when somebody becomes successful making folk music, what they need to do right after is just stop making it. And Matsson has held out on doing that for a long time, but the floodgates break on this new album over here, where we hear some extra guitars in the mix, some strings, we hear more piano, we hear some prominent drums too. And all of this extra instrumentation on this record, when it comes together, it forms this big, bright, blissful wall of blandness. Take the opening track on this LP, Fields of Our Home, which kicks off with these gently strummed guitars and very pained vocals, which you might expect from just about any Tallest Man on Earth song. Maybe Matsson is kind of, really cracking his voice up, yelping a little bit when he's singing to kind of, work up that emotional quality. The lyrics on this track thus far are pretty good. Matsson has consistently proven himself to be a talented lyricist as well. And then, as the song progresses along, we start getting these faint, ethereal strings popping in that don't really match the guitars as well as the vocals in terms of just organicness or rootsiness. They feel very saccharine, sugary, just a little, plain and overproduced. Doesn't really match that very authentic and human charm that I look for in a Tallest Man on Earth song. And these bundles of extra instrumentation are either depleting that completely, or they're popping into songs like this where I'm kind of getting this stripped back vibe from the vocals, from the guitars, and they just don't really match the foundation of what you typically get in a Tallest Man on Earth track. The next track on this LP, Darkness of the Dream, in my opinion, gets even worse. I mean, it goes full folk pop with these just distant cracking snares playing in the background, as well as just this bundle of strings, and just everything bleeds together so much, all the extra instrumentation, that it's hard to pull it apart and tell exactly what's going on. And not only that, but this extra instrumentation kind of competes with the guitars and the vocals, almost drowning Matsson's vocals out during some moments, which may in part be due to some substandard mixing, not totally sure, and I don't know, just not feeling this folk pop vibe on this record. I don't think the Tallest Man on Earth goes like full Lumineers on this track, but he steps over a similarly sugary boundary that's kind of below him, because in a way, some of these watered down folk pop groups, I feel like they wish they could be as organic and as just human as Tallest Man on Earth's early stuff. I feel like now we're just kind of going in the opposite direction, just a lack of relatability here, a lack of humanity. I feel like the Tallest Man on Earth is trading in his unique characteristics just for a little extra instrumentation. The next track on this LP, Singers, is very nice. I love the sweet finger picking on this track, and the viola that is worked into this song complements the guitars and the vocals very nicely. But for me, this track just kind of felt like a thank you for sitting through the previous two. But still, if more instrumentation needed to be incorporated onto this record, why not like this? It just feels more tasteful. It just feels more in the moment. I feel like Kristian is playing with other musicians, not just some kind of overproduced post-production instrumentation that was just thrown into the song afterwards. Because some of the instrumentation on this LP, it doesn't sound like I'm listening to a band of people just make really sweet, intimate music together. I feel like I'm listening to just a multi-track mess, like on the song Singer-songwriter. The instrumental on this track sounds like I'm listening to one of these new indie folk groups that should have stopped at 4 members, but instead they have 14. And actually, I don't really mind the song at the core of this track. The big lunking theme melody isn't too bad either, but the instrumentation is just so freaking bland. It's stiff, it's lifeless. I don't even feel like I'm listening to the same artist. Thankfully, there are single songs on this record that I do enjoy, but they often end up being the simpler tracks, the more stripped back tracks. Like the song Little Nowhere Towns, which is a piano ballad. It's kind of sad, but it has a nice jig to it as well. There's the track Timothy, where we hear some drums, viola, guitars, vocals, but it feels like it's just live in the moment. You're hearing a group of musicians play together, not just some studio trickery. And the last track, the title track on here, I kind of co-sign as well, though the ethereal instrumentation pops back in right at the very end of the song to kind of give the track and the album a very sudden finish in this incredibly standard 10-track list. Overall, this new Tallest Man on Earth LP, it's still decent in a lot of ways. I think that fans are most definitely going to love it, and I did find at least a good handful of tracks on here that I loved, and even most of the songs that I wasn't head over heels with, they were at least decent or likable in some kind of respect. The tracks that were really ruined by this extra instrumentation are really few and far between, but still I really don't see myself running back to this record anytime soon, especially with much stronger and much more consistent and enjoyable records already in this guy's discography. I'm feeling a strong 6 to a light 7 on this LP. And furthermore, I want to say one more thing. I feel like the Tallest Man on Earth could most definitely come through with a much better record after making this instrumental decision, because there are spots on this album where extra instrumentation is brought in, like on Timothy, and it sounds great. It's just that if it's gotta happen, if it's gonna happen, just make it sound more in the moment, more organic. Just make the instrumentation that you bring in sound tangible, not just some kind of glossy, fake, over-reverbed afterthought. Transition.
So what's the deal? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you even watching? Didn't you just fast forward to the part where you said the number and then you press back? I mean, what does the guy even say here? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Not even me. Just kidding. Forever. Hold on just a second. I also review records on my channel, Here Lies Music, but I don't got the kind of time that Anthony Fantano does, so my reviews are 10, 15 seconds long. Very efficient, very thorough. I think you'd like it.